Hello, my name is Sean Steele, Director of Financial Planning for ClearLogic Financial. And the big news, as I'm sure you're well aware for federal employees, is the TSP has upgraded their software system. While some changes have been good, some things have not gone smoothly. And as I'm sure you're well aware, there's been a lot of press coverage. Congress is looking into the problems that occurred, and even the GAO is opening an investigation. So what does all this mean to you? Well, one thing you need to know. Interestingly enough, when the TSP switched from the old system to the new system, beneficiary information on your accounts did not always migrate over to the new system. So what that means is you need to go into your TSP and make sure your beneficiaries are correct. If they're not, you're going to need to update them. And we're going to walk you through the steps to update your beneficiaries today. I've been sitting down with clients helping them update their beneficiaries on the new system, so you're going to get the benefit of some of the lessons I've learned along the way. The new system is clunky, so I'm going to save you some headache and aggravation today. Before we get started, I do need to mention that neither myself or ClearLogic Financial are affiliated with the TSP or the federal government. So with that, let's get started. Okay, now before you begin updating your TSP beneficiaries, there's a couple things that you'll need before you get started. One is if you have not updated your TSP login credentials, you'll need a new set. So when the software migrated from the old system to the new system, even if you had a login on the old system, your login credentials didn't migrate over to the new system. So you will need to set up a new set of login credentials. So you'll need that. So if you haven't done that, do that first. The next thing that you're going to need before you get started, the names and addresses and dates of birth for all of your beneficiaries. That's both primary and contingent beneficiaries, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But the reason the TSP needs the dates of birth for all of your beneficiaries is they need to be able to identify the person that is your beneficiary. So obviously you're not here in this scenario to ask if that's the right person to receive your TSP. So they need something to be able to verify that person's identity. So you have to have the dates of birth. The other thing that you will need is an email address for someone to serve as a witness for your TSP beneficiaries. Now that person cannot be a beneficiary on your TSP. So you will need somebody who is not listed as a beneficiary who is willing to receive an email from the TSP, and they'll basically have to sign an electronic form that says, yes, my friend or my family member did intend to update their TSP beneficiaries as follows. That part of the process is fairly simple because they're just going to get an email and it's going to be an electronic document to sign. So that part is fairly simple, but just you're going to need the email address for your witness before you get started. Okay, so those are the things that you're going to need to get started. So to update your beneficiaries, the first thing you're going to have to do is go to your TSP login, log in, and when you see this screen, what you want to do is go down here in the right bottom corner to beneficiaries, click on that. Now that's going to bring you to this screen. Now, if your beneficiary information did not transfer over from the old system to the new system, there will be nothing on this screen. It will be blank. So you can see here, we have George Washington as 100% primary beneficiary. So our firm is in Washington, D.C., so we always like to pay homage to George and Martha Washington whenever we can. So what you'll notice here, George Washington is listed as the beneficiary, so that means this information transferred over from the old system to the new system. But what you'll notice here is George Washington is listed as the primary, but the contingent beneficiaries did not transfer over from the old system to the new system. Now, just as a reminder, the primary beneficiary is the person or people who will receive your TSP if something were to happen to you. They are first in line. The contingent beneficiary would apply if your primary beneficiary is no longer living at the time of your passing. So let's say for a married couple, one spouse lists the other spouse as the primary, but at the time of the spouse's passing, the surviving spouse had predeceased the spouse. So in this case, it would go to the contingent beneficiaries. All right, so you can see here, the primary beneficiary came over, but the contingent beneficiaries did not. So we're going to need to add a beneficiary. So we're going to click this button. So let's click that. Now, it's going to ask us to choose a beneficiary type. There are 4 types of beneficiaries that we can choose from for the TSP. We can choose a person, a trust. You can leave your TSP to a trust. You can leave it to an organization. Sometimes this makes sense if you have charitable goals, for example, in your estate plan, and you want to leave some or all of your TSP to a charity. You would pick the organization in that scenario. And then the final thing is you can leave it to your estate. So we're going to walk through several of these, but we're going to start with the person first. So here you can see I've selected the person in the drop down. Then we'll hit continue right here. Okay, so this is what it's going to come up for the person. You'll need to enter the person's name. The middle initial is optional, and then their last name. Like I said, date of birth is required. You got to have that. And then you'll also need the person's address. So you can see here the box is checkmarked for address same as yours. You might use that, for example, for a married couple if they want to list the spouse as a beneficiary, for example. You could just check that box. But assuming assuming the address is different, you would need to fill it in. And you can see here we have up top where you would put the address for someone living in the United States. And then down here at the bottom, we have a place for an international address. So let's say that you were in the State Department and you were serving overseas for a lot of times, and you had some really close friends overseas that you'd like to leave some of your TSP to. You would use the address for international, the address section here for the international addresses down here. Okay. Now, very important thing to note. We learned this lesson the hard way in our office here. If you need to list all of your beneficiaries at this step, primary and contingent. So let's say that you're leaving your TSP to your spouse as primary, and maybe you're leaving it to 2 or 3 children as contingent. You need to list your spouse and your children all in this step. So don't move on to the next step until you've listed all of your beneficiaries, both primary and contingent. So we're going to click Add Another Beneficiary. And so we need to choose our type again. And so this time I brought up for trust. So this is how you would enter it for a trust. So for example, if you wanted to leave a trust for a child or something like that, you might consider this. So you need to enter the full title of the agreement. You need to enter the trust date, the trustee's name, and the trustee's address. So you'll need all that information. And this is just showing you what it would look like if you wanted to leave it to an organization. It's the same sort of information as a trustee. You need the name of the organization and the address. So if you, for example, you wanted to leave it to a charity, you need the name of the charity and their address. Okay. So once you get all of your beneficiaries entered, all the information for your beneficiaries entered, hit continue. That's going to bring us up to this next screen. And here's where we're going to designate who we want to be the primary beneficiary. And again, primary beneficiary can have more than one person as the primary. And who we want to be the contingent. So you can see here, there's a column for the primary. You can click the button there. So George Washington is the primary, but we have not listed yet a contingent beneficiary, so we need to do that. So we're going to click on this and we're going to name person 1 as the primary beneficiary. And then we will do that and we'll hit continue. Okay, now on the next screen, this is where you need the information for your witness. And again, they have the requirements up here. Must be at least 21 years old. Cannot be a primary or contingent beneficiary. So you kind of want to have a friend or somebody in mind, give them a heads up, hey, would you mind being a witness for me? All you're going to do is get an email from the TSP. It's a DocuSign. You just verify that I've updated my beneficiaries. It's pretty straightforward. And you can click here to kind of read the witness, and it's going to ask you to verify that you understand the witness requirements. So you need the witness's name and their email address. Once you enter all that information, you can hit continue. Now here's where we choose the percentages. So here we have George as the primary, 100%, and person 1 is the contingent. Again, that would be the person who receives it if something had happened to George and he's no longer living at the time of passing. Then person 1 would get it, and we can designate the percentages, and you can split these out among several different beneficiaries. The percentages can be different for each beneficiary. They don't have to be the same. It can be anything that you want. And you could have a different types of contingent beneficiaries. You could have a person and a charity. Whatever it is you want, it can be done. So once you got your percentages selected, hit continue. It's going to ask you to review your beneficiaries. So just review, make sure they're correct. And then if they are correct, then you're going to hit submit. And then once you hit submit, this is what the screen that's going to come up. And you can see here your beneficiary choices are confirmed, but they're not going to take effect until your witness signs the electronic form that they're going to get sent, that they will be sent. So your beneficiaries will take effect once the witness signs. So when you're speaking with your witness, please tell them that, just click on it as soon as you get it, because my beneficiary changes won't take effect until you complete your part of the process. So that's basically it. If you have not updated your estate plan in a while, if it's been more than 5 years, it's probably a good time to reach out to your estate attorney or your financial planner and see if any changes need to be made to your estate plan. It's a good time to kind of think about those things as well. Any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to hear any questions or comments that you have. Give us a call, send us an email. We'd be happy to hear from you. Thanks again for your time today, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.